I want to explain why I'm still waiting when it comes to render, even though nothing I say is financial advice, and even though I don't necessarily have to wait, I guess, when it comes to this, but I'm still waiting anyways because even with the slight recovery that I'm seeing as of right now, when it comes to render, the way you take a look at it is that even currently, at sitting below $1 billion in terms of market cap, when was the last time I saw that? Literally, it was back in 2023, and we're almost in 2026. So the thing is, when it comes to render, even despite, again, the around 9% kind of upwards movement that we saw in the past 24 hours, really in the grand scheme of things, it's still kind of hypothetically, I think, down by quite a significant amount, especially when compared to, let's say, back in 2024, back in December, when the market cap was nearly 5 billion. Now, the thing is this, if let's say I take a look at Ethereum or even just Bitcoin, I'm just going to use two separate examples, right? If Ethereum went to 10 grand, like for instance, Ethereum right now, it's not over 5 times lower than that. Neither is Bitcoin from 300 grand. You know what I mean? So the way you take a look at it is that even though I'm not telling you to do anything, my point of view is that in order for something like, let's say, Bitcoin to, like, let's say, hypothetically go to 300 grand in a make-believe scenario, that's uncharted territory. But then still, it's only over 3 times lower than that. But the thing is, when it comes to render, it's around 5 times lower than where it was back in December. And, at around a $5 billion market cap, that's not uncharted territory for something like render. We just kind of saw that basically back in December of 2024, around a year ago from this point. But that's just my point of view when it comes to render. Not to mention, actually, even despite render not doing the best, actually, ever since the beginning of 2025, the way you take a look at it, it still has around 200,000 holders, which is, I think, pretty fascinating for me to see because typically when a project doesn't do the best, the amount of holders just really don't do that good whatsoever. But it seems to be holding up pretty okay in terms of that specific statistic when it comes to render. So yeah, I just find it pretty cool nonetheless that I do still see that when it comes to it. However, even besides that point, if I take a look at the hypothetical idea of $20 when it comes to render, I mean, it's still around 11.5 times lower than that. But in terms of kind of, if I want to take a look at the price chart, we saw render at one point reach around nearly $12, right? And that was back in 2024, around March of that time. At that point, it was not even over 2 times lower than $20. You know what I mean? It was over 1 time lower, but it wasn't over 2 times lower. And that was back in early 2024, in which I didn't even think that was an altcoin season, actually. This is just my perspective. I don't think I've seen an altcoin season during this cycle. But again, that's just my mentality. Now, at the hypothetical idea of, again, $20, the market cap, considering current circulating supply, would be around 10.5 billion, which to me, it just doesn't seem like something too outlandish, maybe. But even besides that point, when I take a look at render, sometimes you like to say, okay, who really cares about this? Well, I mean, again, it's going to depend on a case-by-case basis, but personally, the reason why I care about it is because I like the concept of the project, right? If I were to just describe it, I guess, in the most simple way I can, I would hypothetically just take a look at the description that they even put themselves on their, X, right? And the thing is, render, it does provide decentralized GPU, which stands for graphic processing unit, but again, decentralized GPU compute services for 3D rendering and as well as decentralized AI and machine learning applications. Now, the thing is, when it comes to AI, I mean, we already kind of know the attention sometimes that it has during a time when altcoins are doing pretty okay. But at the same time, when it comes to machine learning, that right there, I think, is sometimes an aspect that people don't really consider when it comes to render or just a lot of other projects out there. Like, for instance, right, when I take a look at something like the machine learning market, what I find pretty interesting is that when it comes to, again, that market size right there, it is hypothetically expected to be worth over 200 billion by 2029, according to Fortune Business Insights, which I find pretty fascinating as well because, again, sometimes people don't really care about that. They often just focus on the AI aspect side of things because it's oftentimes not really talked about. The thing is, if I take a look at something like BitTensor, it's also focused on AI and as well as machine learning. But then the thing is, when it comes to BitTensor, it seems to, as of late, have a little bit more attention than something like Render. But the thing is, again, I still find it pretty cool nonetheless that when it comes to machine learning, it is an aspect of render, I would arguably say, because again, it is kind of like focused on somewhat of that aspect, I would arguably say. When I take a look at just the altcoin space overall, people like to say, oh, take a look at what's happening to altcoins. Is there going to be hypothetically an altcoin season? Well, I can't control that, right? But the only thing I can do is just wait, I guess, and stay patient in an event where maybe hypothetically there is an altcoin season. I just want to be waiting. I guess that's pretty much about it. I mean, in the grand scheme of things, no matter what someone told me, no matter how much I research about a certain project, like, at the end of the day, I'm making the decision myself, right? Like, quite necessarily, I could just easily exit when it comes to render. Like, I could just easily not believe in it. I could easily not wait for it, I guess. But at the same time, why am I still voluntarily choosing to do that? Well, it's because, first of all, again, I don't think I've seen an altcoin season. And also, on top of that, I still like the fundamentals when it comes to render because even despite not seeing market cap levels this low when it comes to render ever since 2023, I feel like in terms of the fundamentals, I don't know what kind of thing that was unpleasant happened to it. Like, for instance, if anything, I actually think that render became arguably to me better fundamentally ever since quite a while back ago. Because if I take a look at it, right, what is, I think, a pretty crucial, or should I say, a pretty interesting thing that happened to render, at least that I've seen as of late. Now, it didn't happen recently. I mean, it happened quite a while back ago, but kind of switching the vibe from Ethereum to Solana, I think that right there was pretty cool because previously, if we take a look at render, it did have an aspect of Ethereum, and then, of course, it was voted to build a network on a new layer 1 blockchain, which is Solana. In my perspective, I think that's pretty cool because Solana, it's not as popular as Ethereum, but of course, we take a look at, for instance, just kind of the up-and-coming vibe when it comes to it as a layer 1 blockchain, and also on top of that, Solana, especially for as known as it is, it's not necessarily known, right, for projects that sometimes quite essentially have the best fundamentals out there. Like, it's known for a lot of memes, but it's not necessarily known for, like, let's say some of the projects out there that have that utility sometimes, in some cases, in terms of the perception. So I do like seeing that kind of shift when it comes to Solana because if I take a look at something like Pyth, for instance, right, Pyth is a blockchain oracle for market data. I take a look at something like ZBCN, for instance, or should I say CEBIC. It's focused on that kind of global trade and finance space. So then when I take a look at something like, as well, render, I do like seeing that vibe when it comes to Solana. I kind of like the shift that Solana is having in a sense in terms of the utility aspect side of things. So overall, I'm just still waiting. I'm still staying patient because I've seen a time when, Solana had attention for more so of the fun projects, right? But I haven't really seen a moment where Solana really had that sort of notoriety for the projects that actually have that sort of reputation for having that sort of utility. So then this is why I'm still waiting. I'm still staying patient, but ultimately that's all I can do. And that's all I will do actually, because beyond that, I can't really do anything else. Now, granted though, even though I'm not telling anyone to do anything, I am dollar cost averaging once a month. I don't do any less than that. I don't do any more than that either. That's just what I do. I just like to stay consistent, I guess, when it comes to it, even though it's just only once a month, but still, I'm just dollar cost averaging once a month and just waiting. And yeah, that's pretty much about it. However, I want to say thank you for watching. I hope y'all have a nice day. It's Willie the Captain, and I'll catch y'all on the next one. I'm out. Peace. Bye.